Hello, and welcome to the Think and Innovate podcast, where we explore ideas shaping the future of education and innovation. I'm your host Nidhi, and today's episode is one I have really been looking forward to. We are joined by an incredible, accomplished, and forward thinking leader in education, Mr. Nicholas Patel, or as many call him Mr. Nick. He is a school leader, strategist, coach, and someone who has been instrumental in opening and leading schools across UAE, including 8 PPP schools with Talim and multiple schools with GEMS Education. He wears many hats from principal to business consultant and has a unique talent for turning vision into impactful action. Mr. Nick, a big welcome to you. Hello, Mr. Nick. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's such a pleasure to have you here. Let's start exploring what you are currently doing.
A pleasure to be here, and thank you so much for the invite.
Former colleagues have been talking a lot about and very excited to see you back in the UAE. Is there some big news?
Excited to be back, and it's always nice to reconnect with colleagues and new people that I'm kind of established as friendships in my network. Big news, some of it yet to unfold. Lots of exciting things going on in the UAE, as you know, in the space of AI, doing some great work yourself. So I've been connecting with some people, having some interesting discussions on education and how obviously AI is going to evolve. Some great talks and thinking pieces, some wonderful products that I guess are emerging, and those will unfold next year, so exciting to see how those come to market. But my work, as you know, is in leadership. School improvement, that's my background and experience, and I've partnered with a company in the UK, or rather people that I worked with during the World Education Summit. For a few years, they've got a great program to really just transform the culture around leadership and growth in the schools, and excited now to bring that away from the schools and multi-academy trusts in the UK to the broader hemisphere and hopefully the UAE region to help schools transform. And aside from that, my own personal project and my journey throughout leadership and the good and bad that we all experience, and bringing that to a program where leaders can hopefully learn from my experiences and transform their practices to become more effective and more impactful. So watch this space, but all still hush-hush.
Exciting time ahead, and wish you all the very best.
Thank you.
How would you describe the state of education today, and how has leadership in this field evolved?
Okay, straight in at the deep end. I think uncertain is probably the best word to sum it all up. If we look at education historically, it's probably one of the least innovative industries in over the last 100 or plus years. You can go back and look at images of classrooms, and there's still desks, there's still rows, there's still a teacher sharing knowledge at the front. It has evolved. There's definitely better practices out there. But if we look at agriculture, transportation, the retail industry, certainly tech, they've evolved drastically. And I think education needs to now wake up and catch up to that. AI is possibly going to be that accelerator. And I hope it is in many regards, but still acting wisely and taking the right moves. But I would say I've always been passionate with EdTech and seeing the advancements, but I remember the virtual learning environments. Such a big thing in the UK when they first came on board, and schools were investing a huge amount of money. But then it happened for a few years, there was a buzz around it, and then people fell back into old habits. COVID and more recent experiences, you know yourself, you know the wonderful work that teachers were doing and how much they advanced their practices. But again, when we step back into the classroom, a lot of that great tech use fell short. I think this time AI is going to be slightly different. It's going to be far more integrated into everything that we do. So I'm hoping this will really accelerate learning, and not just for the best practitioners and people around the world who are they have the capital and investment and the support, but on a broader sphere, that we can really impact countries, schools, children, and their lives where they don't have access, they don't have the funding, but it can be transformative in a vast level. So exciting times, and the UAE is definitely, I think, going to be at the forefront of some of those changes. So great to be back here.
As we look into the future, how do you think educators should be best preparing their students?
Okay, another big question, and that uncertain aspect I think is key. But with that uncertainty, I think we need a balance. We don't need to drive things down one path, and we need to create people ultimately who are adaptable, people who are great thinkers and can solve problems. And that links to the World Economic Forum. If you look at their recent report on the global workforce and the skills that are required, what employers are looking for now and what employers see us looking for in 5 or plus years' time in 2030 and beyond, adaptability is high. That's the desired skill, and it very much will need to be. Resilience, because of the ever-changing, evolving landscape and being able to persevere and keep going. And I think education, linking back to your earlier question, has evolved like that, where it's less focused solely on knowledge and more around competency, the holistic approach for children. There's been wonderful evolutions now that, the arts that come in, allowing children to explore through extracurricular activities and exploring their own interests. The IB has had a big influence on the thinking and shifts around education, where that learner profile and all of those competencies are far more valued, and I think employers will value that, and I think they're right to. So if teachers perhaps become less focused just on the knowledge content and the subject knowledge, and look more broadly at the skills and competencies that students need to acquire, by modelling that as well. So they need to be adaptable, they need to evolve with the times, and they need to be all of those things to be the best role models and instill that in children, because they need to believe that change and that journey.
And how has leadership evolved in your opinion and experience?
Leadership, my experience has been vast and varied. It certainly has evolved. And I suppose, like many leaders that I know through the journeys, either through mentors that I've had or through people that I coach and mentor, it goes back to what leadership was once upon a time. And it wasn't leadership, it was management. We had bosses, we had managers. It was far more about directing people, telling them what to do, and ensuring that goals were achieved. Whereas I think the world now, companies, the educational field as well, are far more aware of emotional intelligence, what leaders need to be, which is heavily reliant on good people skills, the relationship side of things, and those factors within being an effective leader are extremely important, not just the knowledge of how to do this or being the one person to go to who has all of the answers, reliant on your team. I think people understand that now, not just the people in those positions, but actually the teams below who work for people have that expectation of what a leader should be.
And many educators struggle with career advancement. What advice do you have for those seeking promotion?
I think again, going back to adaptability or rather flexibility in this case, people get caught up with a linear plan, and they think, well, I'm here and I aspire to get to this point, and they think it's a simple journey. It rarely is. I mean, you might get lucky and you may stay on that course, but being flexible to sometimes take a sideways move and realize that may help you for your long-term benefit. I myself am a victim of this in my early career as a mathematician, as someone who was passionate about data and assessments. That skill set was always utilized by any company or any school that I worked with, and it pigeonholed me. And I was passionate about it, so I was blindsided to the bigger picture. But then taking steps out of my comfort zone, doing things not for money, just for the experience, broadened my skill set and then made me, I suppose, more attractive for promotion and for other positions. And I think that's something that people perhaps don't do enough. And the other aspect is the idea of loyalty within a company. I think it comes from the right place. I'm loyal to the companies that I work with as well, but not restricting yourself to just think, okay, this is where my promotion and my growth will happen. Sometimes you have to look beyond that for other organizations, and sometimes look outside of the country. Don't limit yourself to my comfort zone of, well, I like life here. I like life in Dubai, but there's many colleagues who've taken the step to go to Asia and other parts of the world, and then they've come back here once they've got the experience they needed to get an even bigger promotion.
That's fascinating. Can you tell us about any hidden secrets or approach you have used to advance your own career?
I am definitely not going to give all of those away, and some of those I'll share in the program that I'll be launching.
Okay.
But I think something that people maybe underestimate, and I see it in this region in particular of having extreme value, is not IQ or EQ, but SQ, their social intelligence quotient. The idea of being able to network, to form relationships with people on the instant, when you're at events, within your school as well, even if it's not your line manager or the people you work with, and having that greater connectivity and establishing those relationships opens doors, because then it becomes less about, well, what have you done, what's written on your CV, and it's the people that you know or the people that somehow gel with you and say, well, I can see this person working for me or working with me, and that can often lead to the promotions that you talked about earlier as well.
Okay, now let's talk about talent management. How can educational institution better retain and grow their staff?
A big question, and it's I think a hot topic of conversation globally. If you look at some of the HR reports and McKinsey and so on, talent is lost. Organizations don't always get this right. In the educational world, I think often you see movement because there was this mindset of, oh, it's money. People are just looking for more money. They're looking for a greater opportunity. But the research, there's plenty of evidence out there to show that it's not just about that. I think, again, increasingly, it might be with the change in the industry and globally, inflation and prices rising. But historically and more frequently, it's about being unhappy. It's about not feeling valued. It's about not feeling invested in. And my biggest advice to leaders in the educational field who often came from being great teachers is go back to that. What made you a great teacher? What did you do? Well, you looked after the people in your classroom. You made sure that they were challenged and they were growing in terms of their learning. You supported them when they needed someone to listen to. And you gave them all of those ingredients. And as leaders, we shouldn't forget that, because if we did the same thing to our new class of teachers or younger leaders, then they'll stay with you.
Do you have any hidden secret that you would like to share with us, how you have grown somebody's potential or talent?
I'm not sure I would want to single a single person out, or if they would want me to. But I think the most successful change that I see with people, and my leadership style as well, is adaptable. It's understanding the person and giving them what they need. So sometimes they're on a ship with many holes and there's water seeping in, so it's plugging those holes so they can continue on their journey. Sometimes they've got a beautiful ship and they've got everything that they need. They just need someone to be the wind in their sails to push them in the right direction. And other times, someone might need you to take apart the boat and build a car instead. So it's down to the individual, but again, I think it's about fostering a strong relationship, establishing trust, and then being there just as a sounding board. I mean, coaching is so empowering to get people to have that self-realization and increases their motivation to go on and do things. And I think that approach is the approach I take rather than highlighting an individual. And I suppose the other biggest thing that is an accelerator in that is not trying to do everything in silos or even having those conversations one-to-one, but bringing teams of people together, establishing PLCs where then you don't have to do the work as the leader, you just have great, rich conversations with peers and they run with things, and it's transformational.
If I may take a moment to reflect personally, I would love to share how you have made a difference in my own journey. From my early days of stepping into leadership, managing teams, and launching new initiatives, there were moments of doubt and uncertainty. But you were always there offering encouragement, asking the right question, and reminding me of my strengths. Your mentorship did not just help me grow professionally, it gave me the confidence to believe in myself and step up when it mattered the most. Whether it was shaping programs, navigating school partnership, or simply learning to lead with purpose, you have been an anchor in that journey. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Nick.
Thank you so much.
Now it's time for a rapid fire round. Let's take a break
Okay,
from the deep stuff.
I better have a sip of water and prepare for this.
I'll shoot few questions and you
Should I
have to
stretch?
answer whatever comes in your mind first. Are you ready?
Go for it.
Tea or coffee?
It's rapid fire, right? Tea very much for the majority of my years as a Brit, but with old age, coffee.
Favorite leadership quote?
Favorite leadership quote, I think management is about doing things right. Leadership is about doing the right things, and that's by Peter Drucker. Probably very much a pioneer and the godfather of modern management, moving more into leadership and some great work around modern day practices which also influence MBAs, and that is something I hold close to me as a value-based leader.
One school subject you secretly did not like?
Possibly going to upset my former teachers now. Honestly, I love most of them, and maths and PE is my favourite, but to answer your question, it was geography, and I don't think it was a subject, but I think it was possibly my teachers who delivered it in a very direct manner of information sharing and textbook, rather than myself, I was far more involved and enjoyed practical hands-on learning and creativity.
Morning person or night owl?
Night owl.
Favorite tech tool right now?
Favorite tech tool? So many things to choose from. I would say the things that I'm kind of most excited to see emerging is probably the new features in Google Meet with the lifetime translation, which is less about, I see that for the business side of things, and now really being a global economy and people being able to work and communicate, but more from an educational perspective of how transformative that will be when you have a child in your classroom who's arrived from a different country, doesn't speak the language, and they have weeks and weeks, months and months of lost learning because they're not accessing what's being said to them or the information that's being shared. So if that can be enhanced and you can use that in the classroom, I think that's going to be a great game changer. From a practical point of view for my own self, the new features that are emerging with OpenAI and meetings where you can record detailed minutes, action points, and saving a lot of time on admin from a personal perspective.
Book every school leader must read?
Can I choose two?
Yeah, that's fine.
No, I'll stick to one. I'm not behaving well in this rapid fire. Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman, focusing on kind of the 4 core domains of emotional intelligence and the competencies around that. But it really does help leaders to understand that these things, even if you don't possess them, can be learnt and to zone in on what specifically they do mean. And that can transform many a practice because it's an area that leaders struggle with.
Most inspiring person in your life?
I'm really bad at this rapid fire round. I think most people look at this as from above, leaders to look up to, and there have been several people throughout my career. But I take most inspiration from people that I work with and people that I've worked with in teams. And that might be a teacher in the classroom. It might be a middle leader who's just stepping in their first role. But seeing their unwavering commitment and dedication to students, or how they embrace new technology or new ideas and run with it and come up with, do so much more than I ever would have expected we could have done with this. And the ideas that are further generated, it kind of inspires me to think, wow, I can do so much more if this person who isn't being paid for that role, they've just been asked to do this as a small add-on or as a favor above and beyond what they're doing, and they create something amazing because their passion, their beliefs and their values are in the right place, their why is clear to them, and that inspires me.
Most unforgettable student moment?
I've got to go back a few years for this. I was like, something that bizarrely sticks in my mind, perhaps because of the conversations I have around what education should be and what experiences children have, and perhaps more so because I now have a young daughter as well, who's in that early years setting. um, where I was just left freely. There was some wonderful kit that you could build anything and anything with, not Lego, but like Technics or some form. And I sat there for hours as a young child, freely, at my school. The teacher was still supervising, it wasn't a safeguarding issue. And I managed to build this bicycle. And I could sit on it, and it wasn't large, and I could ride it. I was small at the time. And it was just how I was able to create this and independently engage with it from a young age. Just shows the capabilities of children when we are young. And I remember students kind of rushing around, and they all wanted to have a go, and we were kind of moving around the playground area until one child broke it because he was overexcited. So there's a sad end to the story.
Oh. One word your team would use to describe you?
I think it varies depending on where and when I was in my educational journey. I hope that it's very different at the later stages than it was perhaps in the beginning, where I was still learning my craft. It's not an exciting word, but I would possibly say reliable.
Okay.
I turn up for my team. I go to bat when they need someone to fight their corner. And I'm there listening to what's going on, and where I can, I will always try and support the team, and whether that's financial, whether that's through personal circumstance. I believe that if you look after the people in your organization, they will look after you.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much for officially passing the fun test.
I can breathe in it.
Yes. So let's talk about the hot topic for now, AI.
Mm-hmm.
AI is a hot topic. So what opportunities and challenges do you see?
The opportunities, I think, are close to infinite. You've seen the advancement in the last year alone, and there was remarkable things that were probably in the pipeline even before that, and the business sectors certainly have already been utilizing some of that. I think from an educational point of view, it's extremely exciting. Tools that can give children lifetime feedback, the adaptable side of platforms where children aren't held back, but also they're supported when they need it, and you don't have one teacher running around a classroom the whole time trying to facilitate all of that, which is tiring, and it's certainly not easy as a teacher having experienced that life without technology. So I think it's exciting what it can do, and there's so much more obviously that you can do with it as well, whether it's augmented or agentic AI. However, I just say in anything in life, it's the balance. And that's what I call the caution to is, okay, while we're doing this, how much of it should we do? 100% we should be bringing AI literacy into the curriculum. There's other things that for some reason don't exist. Financial literacy is something which is fundamental. I believe children should also be educated and have an understanding of what cryptocurrency is, because it heavily features now in today's society. And if you don't, not just about the benefits, but also the dangers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an advocate of it, but I also know the risks, and I think students need to know that. And it's the same for AI. We need them to be educated. We need them to be able to use it, because it is going to become increasingly more common in all aspects of life. But we also need to educate them so that they can independently choose to find the right balance and not become solely reliant on something which is there to enhance, not replace every aspect of humanity.
How do you envision AI changing the role of educators in the next decade?
Well, I think it will make their lives easier in many regards. I think teachers always are requesting more time, and that's within their timetable, free periods, because there's so much you have to do. But I think marking alone is a bugbear for teachers, so elements of replacing that will allow teachers not to become lazy, but to focus their time and efforts on other important things and the relationship side of working with students and young people, or the personalization and the individual conversations. There'll be more time for that, or to be more creative and use AI to create wonderful experiences. You can see the kind of digital worlds that can be created from someone's mind and really inspire children, rather than just a chalkboard, or before even the interactive whiteboards, which were used in some cases just as another chalkboard to present information. I think it's what we can do, what we can showcase, and the worlds that we can take children to from a classroom without even stepping out of that room is remarkably exciting.
Now let's move on to your personal life.
Mm-hmm.
With
My
such
favorite
a
topic of conversation.
yeah, with such a demanding role that you have, how do you balance your personal and work-life relationship?
Well, I mean, the demanding role of old, working in schools, leading schools, certainly I think I found it more challenging. I'm probably a notorious workaholic. As things evolved and I got wiser, I tried to find the right balance, and it's not easy. And I think if you are someone who's passionate about your work, you value the impact that you're having, and you want to do more, and you always can do more. I think we're in the world of education. The only way really to find that balance is by protecting your time in a very mindful and prescribed manner. And some things that I introduced was, you know, one day within the working week would be a day when I would finish at an appropriate time, and I would go home and I would switch off and I would enjoy time with my family or personal things that I enjoy. Playing sports, I think, you know, at least once a week, or the gym, whatever it is. I think that physical side of life is also important. So unless you plan and you build in that time, I think it's very easy to neglect it when you get caught up, not just in education, but in any working field which is competitive or there's high demand. You can get lost in the ether.
How is your family supporting you throughout your professional journey? Do you have any moment to share with
I
us?
think in different ways, and it probably is similar to when I was a child. I mean, as a professional, I'm quite driven, and I'm ambitious, and always was. As a student, I was academic, and I didn't struggle. So I guess in some regards, certain subjects I found easy. So my parents never pushed me, and that's the same with my family now as I'm older. And that's nice and reassuring that they believe in me. They believe that I am wise enough in most regards to make the right decisions for myself, and they support that, whether that would be taking a promotion, whether that would be taking a step back to find a better work-life balance. I think as long as it's right for me, they're happy with that.
And how is your perfect weekend look like?
The perfect weekend depends on the working week, and if it's an intense working week and I've been very busy or had to have more challenging, difficult conversations, you know, that can pay its toll.
Yeah.
We hear about work burnout and how important our kind of self-regulation and emotional well-being is as well. And I think for me it's about relaxation. So I enjoy being at the beach, and that's why I moved away from the UK, and enjoying good weather, whether that's swimming or relaxing. I do like spending time at the spa on occasions as well, meditation and sports. So those things kind of recharge my batteries. I'm a big foodie as well, so
Okay.
so struggling to fit into my suit.
Doesn't look like. Let's talk about your personal approach to leadership. What major influences shaped your style?
So, I mean, some of the books that I read in my early stages, I think, broadened my horizon in thinking. The biggest things that shaped my leadership style was mistakes.
Okay.
And I've made many, especially at the early stages of when I first took on leadership roles, and in some cases even in later stages. Not through misintention, but sometimes just you choose the wrong path and you think this is what's best, either for the students, the school, or even for the individual. But we're humans. It's what makes us human. You know, we make mistakes. As long as we learn from those and we evolve. So mistakes are probably the biggest things that have impacted my leadership style. But in terms of influence, there's been some great leaders who I've worked with, whether they've been principals or directors. And I've taken bits and pieces from individuals rather than one person. I think, you know, that resonates with me. My values are akin to that, and that's something that I bring into my leadership toolkit. But also each of them have had things on the other side of the coin, things that don't resonate with me, or I've seen them make mistakes, or deal with either me or teams, or make decisions which have had an impact on the wider sphere. And for the wrong reasons, I've learned from that as well, thinking, well, I don't want to be that kind of leader, or I don't want to be someone who makes that kind of decision, because I can see the bigger impact it has, not just on us reaching the goal, but the long-term impact that has on the team, who probably aren't going to be there. And I think weighing up all things into consideration and making the right choices is very important. So using all of those influences, bringing them together and putting my own spin on it is what I try to do.
And you have helped GEMS and Talim to open many schools. So is there any proudest moment that you could recall and share with us?
Well, I would have liked to have got some shares from both companies. The things that I'm terribly British, so I'm not particularly proud of. I am modest, so this is probably a difficult question for me to answer. The thing that I'm proudest, if we are using that word, the thing that gives me the most satisfaction and makes me know what I'm doing is right for me and what I believe in, is not so much the impact, and I have had impact at different schools or the outcome in that regard, but it's about the people, and it's about the relationships that I've managed to foster during those times, which are still strong bonds now. And coming back, the number of people who've contacted me, reached out to meet up or to potentially work together and collaborate in some regard, and they're people that I respect a lot, because I believe it is that mutual level of respect. So that really drives me. It's the thing I am proud of is the relationships and the leaders that I've worked with and seen grow and flourish through the work that we've done together, but also on their own journey and being able to be a part of that and to influence those steps, or sometimes saving people when they're at that pivotal point in their career and they're saying, this isn't for me anymore, or perhaps I want to go on and do something independently and bigger. Just being able to have those conversations or having been a part of an influence for them, it gives me satisfaction and helps me to continue doing what I do and enjoy investing in people and helping them grow.
Now, I'm a bit curious regarding your current project, what you're currently working on. Would you like to share a few insights?
Well, I mean, I shared a little bit at the beginning in relation to that. So one of those projects is the design of it and the people in the UK who really established this across a number of groups of schools. It was just really helping schools and leaders unpack what actually is leadership to them. How do they bring in what their mission statement, vision is, and is it actually relevant for what they're doing? Is it understood by the teams? Does it need to change and evolve? And helping them really sharpen and focus what leadership is, what they should be doing as leaders, and zone in on how they're going to transform their practice, but align so that there's the same common language and same goals, so to speak. And then empowering those leaders through the right conversations and getting them to really reflect on their practice. We've then seen tremendous growth in those schools. And then once we step out, that growth continues and the feedback has been really positive. So excited to bring that hopefully to schools on a wider platform globally. Who knows?
Thank you so much, Mr. Nick. That's
Thank
a
you.
wrap up of our discussion on education and leadership. Before we wrap up, do you have any final message for school leaders or educators you might be sharing with them?
Is to help them on the kind
Their
of next
next
steps, or
move.
if they have an idea or initiative?
Yeah,
or
how they
in
can
general?
take their next move in their journey.
I think I've worked on some really exciting projects. I mean, GEMS Education I was with for 8 years, and the leaders there in the central office and within schools I've worked with were very kind and empowering to allow me to lead on some exciting projects and be a part of them. So I think, but what always helped me within those things, or when I was branching out into something new I wasn't entirely sure about if it was the right course, was just speak to people, get feedback. The things that have helped me keep going, or the things that have helped me on my journey for progress or promotion, has always been having a coach, having a mentor, someone that I can speak to outside my immediate circle of work and colleagues, which allow me to speak openly, freely, but also to challenge my thinking and to help me focus my thinking of actually what's right, because often we're busy, we don't give enough time for those things. So speak to people, get feedback, don't rush into decisions, it's okay, but always it's good to have a second opinion, even if it's before you hit send on that email.
Thank you so much for your time. It was such an inspiring and thought-provoking
A
conversation.
pleasure, and lovely to be here.
Same here.
Thank you.
Mr. Nicholas believes that all schools should be a place where innovation is embraced, talents are nurtured, and every student and member of staff is cared for, while empowering them to excel within a culture of excellence that is grounded in the strong moral values. Thanks again for joining us. To our listeners, if you have enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and share. This is Nick and Nidhi signing off from Think and Innovate. Stay curious and keep leading with purpose. Thank you.